guys, how's it going? So it's day 2 here at our friend's house where we're doing a garden makeover project. Yesterday we got the flower beds all shaped, the sod removed, and landscape fabric laid down. So today all we're going to work on is getting the irrigation set up. So I want to show you the whole process and show you all the pieces that I'm going to be using. So the most important thing first is to know where your water source is, which ours is right here. We're going to be tapping into this faucet that just comes right out of the house, but we won't worry about that actually until the very end. We're going to put all of our drip lines in first. So here are some of the basic supplies we're going to be using. This is 1/2-inch black poly. I think they call it distribution tube. It's just a solid tube. There are no emitter holes in this one. And then we're going to be using 1/2-inch brown drip tubing, and this one's got emitters every 18 inches that emit 1 gallon per hour. Then we've got landscape staples here, and this is what we use both to tack the landscape fabric down and then also to tack the tubing down so it doesn't pop up out of our mulch, and it makes us be able to kind of manipulate the tube and put it right where we want it. And then I've just got a selection of couplers here. These are the ones I prefer. They go inside the tube like this. So we've got straight couplers, we've got some corners if we need to do a corner, and then T's right here. So what we're going to do first is start to lay out the black poly drip tubing, and I'll kind of explain everything as we do it over here in the flower bed. Okay, so as you can see behind me, we've started by running one line of the 1/2-inch black poly tubing that's just solid. And the reason I did that instead of using the brown drip tubing with the holes every 18 inches is that I actually think it's far less wasteful of water because we tend to plant our anchor plants up closer to the house, and there's far fewer of those than there is once we get toward the front of the flower bed where we plant big drifts of perennials and annuals that need a little bit further saturation. So this line right here enables us to get our plants in the ground and then pop emitters in where each one of those plants ends up going, and that way we know water's getting right to the root ball of each one of those plants and we're not wasting any water in between. So the next thing I'm going to do, this is the only place that I'm going to use the black poly, is right on the back of each one of the flower beds. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this tubing here and add my brown drip tubing and then finish the rest of the flower bed with the brown drip tube. So when I come to a corner like this, I like to use an elbow coupler because I found if you try to curve your tubing too hard, it can kink it. So I try to keep each run of tubing as straight as possible. So as you can see, I ran one line of the brown poly drip tube right up close to the front of the flower bed. I did bump it back about 18 inches from the front of the bed because the grass is still being watered by sprinklers. So naturally the flower bed's going to get a little runoff from that. And then when I came over here, I added another corner so that everything is connected. So in the end, this grid system, there'll really be no start and no finish. It's all connected for even water distribution. And the other reason I like it is because if I do everything in a grid, I kind of have a basic knowledge of how my drip tubing is laid out underneath the mulch. I used to just take this drip tubing because it is squirrely and it's kind of easier to just roll it around plants and kind of have a really weird squirrely network of tubing, but it just isn't as good for distribution and for future planning. So now we're going to finish the grid and we'll set up the camera and show you how that goes in, and then we'll give you a close-up look. Okay, so the grid system is done. We added 2 extra rows of the brown drip tubing by just cutting into the outer grid, putting some T couplers in, and then running our lines. And so they're about roughly 18 inches apart, which we feel like is pretty good saturation, and that will depend on what type of soil you have. If you have really heavy clay soil that holds on to a lot of water, you may not need quite as many drip tubes in a flower bed, or if you have really quick draining soil, you might need more. So you just kind of have to adjust based on your area and what your soil is like. We've found in our area that we can run approximately 450 to 500 feet of the brown drip tubing off of one water source and still get really nice pressure. Now, if you were to add the brown drip tubing and then pop in a bunch of extra emitters, which you can do if you need to get a little extra water to one of your plants, if you do that, I mean, it reduces the amount of feet that you can run the actual brown drip tubing. So the only thing really left in this area is to add in our emitters, and you don't need any special tools. This right here is a Rainbird. My hand is super dirty from the landscape fabric, but this is a Rainbird drip emitter. They have a pointy, kind of sharper end that punches right into the tubing. So I will wait to put these in until I have my plants in place. That way I make sure to get these in the exact right spot. But like I said, you can add these emitters. You can get them in half gallon, 1 gallon, 2 gallon per hour, even up to 4 gallon per hour. You can add them into the brown drip tubing as well if you need a little bit of extra water somewhere. So the very last thing that we have to do is to tap into this black poly that we ran underneath the sidewalk, because this is where this flower bed right here is getting the water from the same exact source. So you can see the brown poly comes out from underneath the sidewalk here. So I am just going to tap into my brown drip tube. I'm going to cut this, I think, about where I need it. And then I'll just put in my T-coupler. And they're pretty easy just to put in by hand. Okay, and then I brought a landscape staple over and we'll just tack that down so it doesn't pop up. Done. Okay, so now we're going to set up a grid system in this flower bed exactly the same way, and then our last step will be to connect it to our water source. Okay, we got this side all done, and it's a grid system just like the other one. So we've got the black 1/2 inch poly toward the back where we'll be putting our evergreens and larger shrubs. And then we did put in 3 rows of the brown drip tubing. And it does appear that it's a little bit closer right here, but I'm gonna put some perennials that tend to like a little bit more water right here. So you can kind of plan things out that way. And then over here, you'll notice that there's kind of a blank spot right here, and I left that on this side and on the other side because we are putting 2 containers in, and I didn't want those to have to balance on top of any drip tubing. And then we will be showing you later on how we're running the drip to those containers, because we will be tapping into this system to do it. And then if you guys didn't see, because I'm not sure that it was really clear in this video, how we put the black poly tubing underneath the sidewalk, that was in the first one, which we will link down below if you want to check that video out. But since our water source is over there, it goes under the sidewalk, and that's how this side will be watered. So the last thing we have to do is tie in to the faucet over here on the house. This whole system is going to be hooked up onto a timer. I like to use the Gilmore ones because they're really self-explanatory and easy to use. So let me get this out of the packaging, which can kind of be difficult. Hold on. So you can get timers that are like 1 outlet like this one. This is pretty simple. You can get them to where there's like 4 outlets that you can program individually, but you can set it for how long you want them to run and then how often, like every 2 days or every week or however often you want. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this hooked onto the house first. Setting it is really easy. So right now I have it set to off. So you can select how often you want to have it run. And I want it to run every 1 day. And then how long? Let's go to 30 minutes. And I want my start time to be at, let's say, 5:30 a.m. And then set the clock, and right now it's 12:25. Actually, should I do it this way? And run. So now every morning at 5:30 a.m. it'll turn on for 30 minutes. Oh. So it turns out that this faucet leaks a little bit, and so they're going to be getting that fixed here really soon. So we're going to move to plan B, but I still want to show you how you would set up your drip system to a faucet, because I know a lot of you are in that situation where you don't have an extra zone. So what you would do is you would take your timer and hook it straight to your faucet like that, and then you would get a couple different types of adapters. So this one right here is a female 3/4 inch hose thread to a female 1/2 inch thread. And that piece will go onto the bottom of your timer, and you want to make sure to get everything nice and tight like that. And then on the bottom here you put in a male 1/2 inch that adapts to your 1/2 inch poly coupler there. Get that one tight, and then you attach your black 1/2 inch poly, so it will look kind of like this right there. And then you'll just follow to where you want to tap in, and you'll trim your tubing to however long you need it to be, and then you'll just tap in with a T coupler. So your T will go in this end, and then the other 2 will go into your actual drip tubing just like that. I'm not going to do that with this here, but I just wanted to show you kind of the parts and configuration and how you can expect it to look. So there's 2 additional pieces that a lot of people will recommend that you use. I just don't personally find them necessary. They're a pressure reducer. It's either 20 or 25 PSI. We'll put them up on the screen because I don't have them here with me so you can see what they look like, and a backflow preventer, which prevents any junk that may get into your system from getting back up into your faucet and into your water system. And those pieces would go in between the timer and your white adapter right there. So that might be one of those kind of do as I say, not as I do sort of things, because I do think a majority of people would recommend that you use those 2 pieces in conjunction with all of the rest. So what we're actually going to be doing is we are going to tap into this grid right back here, and we're going to run a black poly tube around the back side of the house and just hook into another drip system that they have already going back there. And that'll work out really well, and it'll give them time to fix that faucet. So this is where I'm going to tap in right here. I'm just going to use a T-coupler and push it into the brown tubing, and then attach my 1/2 inch black poly, which we've run alongside the house to the back. So we'll show you where we're going to tap in. So we've got it right along the base of the house here and kind of tucked in behind the AC unit. And then it goes around the corner to this spot right here. So we talked with our friends and they let us know that right here is where the water is coming from. All of this stuff has been abandoned and they don't use it actually. So we're gonna cut right here, and I'm not really sure what we're dealing with. It looks like it's bigger, like it might be 3/4 inch. So I'm gonna pull it up a little bit so I have some slack to work with here, and then I'm just gonna make a cut. We'll see what we have to deal with. Yeah, that looks like it's either 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch, which means we're gonna make a quick run to the store and get the correct adapter. So I'll probably buy both a 3/4 inch to 1/2 inch and an inch to 1/2 inch so that, you know, depending on which one I need, I'll have either one here. So I think this is what we're looking for, 3/4 inch to 1/2 inch. So we went down and got the correct adapter, and then I went ahead and cut the rest of that T kind of junction off. So what I'm gonna do is cut the 1/2 inch, and then I'll insert my 1/2 inch side here. Let me get the wrapper off. And then we're just gonna connect to the existing tube. And that is all there is to it. So now I'm gonna go along and tack it all down along their house just to get it all nice and tidy. Okay, so we've got all the drips set up and it's tied into the zone outside, and they already had a zone in the backyard already available, which was really, really handy. So now I'm gonna turn this on and we'll just give it a test run. I hear it. Yep. So as you can see, everything's working really great. You can see where the emitters are. You can see little puddles of water forming all the way around. That is such a welcome sight at the end of a project like this. Let me just show you the other side over here real quick. Kind of the same story. You can see all the water here dripping out, and that's a really nice thing to see, especially since we had to go underneath the sidewalk. Everything's working really well. It doesn't look like we have any patches that aren't working. And that's kind of a good thing. You always want to do a test run and let it run and really see where that water goes. Then you can determine whether or not you need to add any more before you get it all covered up with mulch. So anyway, that's it for this part of the project. I hope that this video was helpful. Just seeing the irrigation from start to finish with all the pieces, all the parts that we use, and how we like to configure it, because it's been something that we've had to kind of work out the kinks over the years and figure out the best way to run it, and how we can remember where the drip tubing is. And doing the grid system has been so helpful, both in water distribution and kind of knowing how each one of our beds are laid out with drip. So anyway, tomorrow's video will be the actual planting of these areas, and I'm so excited. I've got all the plants here ready to go. So we will come back in the morning when it's nice and shady, and we'll get it all in the ground. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.